very long, but we haven't done it in a while, so it seems like it might be a good idea to just do a little review. Okay, absolute value equations and inequalities. I'm almost done adding detailed solution feedback to these, so when you miss them or if you miss part of them, it'll go through a solution to all these. What about this one? Talk to me about this one real quick. Okay, we know what the rule is, hopefully, right? If we have an absolute value equation, we're going to trade whatever's, we're going to set whatever's inside equal to the number or its opposite. But before you even get there, look closely at this one. What's wrong with this picture? It's negative, yeah. Can an absolute value ever equal something? No, it can't. So what's the solution? The NS, wouldn't it, right? Because the output, absolute value, when I take the absolute value of something, I always have to get back either 0 or a positive answer. I could never get a negative answer back, right? So this one, because this is negative, it's NS, right? Okay. What about this? What are our rules here? What do we want to do with this? Now, we got an absolute value equation, right? So what is, when we deal with an absolute value equation, what do we need to do first?
Wait, those are negative, and that's
Not necessarily, because it's different. Because in this case, the absolute value was by itself and it was negative, right? So it's possible that we might end up deciding this one's no solution also, but we can't tell yet. Because what do we have to do first?
Subtract 10.
Okay, and subtract 10 and then divide by -2. And the whole purpose there is to isolate the absolute value, right? So step 1, isolate the absolute value, right? So to do that, you told me we'll add 10 to both sides.
Subtract.
And then that's going to give us -2 times the absolute value of -4x minus 48 equals what? What's -14? Oh, minus 10, sorry. What's -14 minus 10? Yeah, -24. Then you told me divide by -2, right? Because our goal is, right, we're trying to isolate that, right? So if we divide each side through by -2, the -2's cancel. And then I end up with, well, yeah, I end up with the absolute value of something equals 12, right? And the something is a -4x minus 48. Now, it's okay to have negatives inside the absolute value, right? That's okay, it doesn't matter. It's just going to change the values of x that we end up getting for our solutions. But that's all right. We just couldn't have a negative there, right? Okay, so that's step 1. What's step 2? Yeah, okay, so now step 2 is we're going to write equivalent equations, right? Our goal with step 2 is we want to get rid of the absolute value by trading it for 2 regular equations. So step 2 looks like this. We're going to say that the absolute value of something, let's just call this capital X, all that stuff right there, just like they do in the textbook, we'll call it capital X, where that's just some algebraic expression, some expression that has a variable in it, right? If we have the absolute value of x equals some number k, then we're going to make the trade. We know that whatever's inside either equals k or whatever's inside equals -k, right? So we're going to make that trade. So for us, what's that look like? Well, we'd end up with what's inside is a -4x minus 48 either equals what? 12, good. Or -4x minus 48 equals -12. And now all I have to do is just solve those, right? So what are the steps in order to solve for x? Add 48, divide by Negative 4, right? So what do we get over here if we do that? Negative 4x equals what, 60? So if I divide by negative 4, what's 60 divided by negative 4? Negative 15. So there's one solution, or over here we have negative 4x equals, what's that going to be, 36? Positive 48 plus negative 12, 48 minus 12. Divide by negative 4, what's that?
9,
Negative 9. There you go, right? So those are my solutions. How could I check them? Plug them in. Yeah, see if they work. Okay, no big deal. So there's that guy. How about something like this now? We'll deal with an inequality. Okay. So what step one's the same, isn't it? Right? Step one, we're going to isolate the absolute value. Isolate the absolute value. Okay. So we're going to subtract 10 from both sides, right? And that gives us 2 times the absolute value of 3x minus 3, but not equals, is less than or equal to 46 minus 10, 36, good. Divide by 2, right? If I divide both sides by 2, I end up with absolute value of 3x minus 3 equals what? Not equals, less than or equal to. 18, there you go. Okay, so now, this is one where this time we've got an absolute value, it's not equal to, it's less than or equal to a number, right? So that changes step 2 for us. Step 2, we're going to make our transition, we're going to get rid of the absolute value and write it as regular inequalities, but this time, we're going to use the relationship. The absolute value of something, call it x, if it's less than or equal to k, how do we rewrite that? So what about x? What's x? In this case, whatever's in the middle, whatever's inside the absolute value is going to be what? Greater than or equal to negative k, and less than or equal to positive k, whatever k is, right? So for us, what goes inside, instead of x, we end up with a 3x minus 3 is going to be greater than or equal to what? And what's greater than or equal to what? Okay, but what's our k though? But it's got to be a negative k, right? So negative 18 and less than or equal to 18, yep. Okay, so now what are the 2 steps in order? Get x by itself? Add 3. Okay, so we add 3 to all parts. And that gives us, now I didn't divide by a negative, so the signs, inequality signs don't get reversed. Negative 18 plus 3 is negative 15. Got a 3x, and 18 plus 3 is 21, right? Last step, divide by 3. Okay, so that's just going to give me x stays the same. Negative 15 divided by 3 is negative 5. 21 divided by 3 is 7. So there's my answer. Right? Okay, and you just have to remember these relationships. Remember, if the absolute value of some algebraic expression is less than a number, that's when you use the and statement, where we've got whatever's inside is pinched between the negative and positive values of the number, right? Okay, one more, and we can work. How about this guy? Same kind of thing, right? We've got to isolate. Step 1, we're going to isolate. So what do we subtract 5? And that gives us negative 2 absolute value of negative 3x plus 33 is less than negative 60. Now what?
Divide by 2.
They divide both sides by negative 2. But what happens when you divide by a negative?
The side.
I got to flip reversed inequality, right? So we end up with the inequality pointing the other direction. And over here we get our absolute value of negative 3x plus 33. Over here we get positive 30, right? Okay, so now we isolated the absolute value. Next step, what's it look like? See, notice this time we've got a greater than. The absolute value is greater than a number, not less than a number. So what's the rule for that? If I have the absolute value of something is greater than a number, now what? It's the OR statement. So whatever's inside is either going to be really big and positive or it's going to be extreme, right? It's either going to be greater than the positive or less than the negative, right? So you're going to be a really big positive number or a really big negative number, right? And so if we plug in our values, we just get, we get negative 3x plus 33 is less than, or greater than, 30, or negative 3x plus 33 is less than negative 30, right? Questions on that? Does that make sense? And then I'm just going to solve both of those, right? So what do I do here? Subtract 33. Now what? Divide by negative 3. So what do I have to do? Down, bottomed out there. So I've got to flip around the inequality. So I end up with x is less than 1. Or over here, if I subtract 33, I get negative 3x is less than negative 63. Divide both sides by negative 3. So I flip around the inequality. And I get x is greater than 21. So there's my two solutions. Okay, make sense? Okay. All right, I want you just to notice, I'll let you work now. If I, on these problems, notice that if I put in, I'll just put in a wrong answer. Take advantage of this, please, because this is taking a ton of time. But you guys like having the solutions, right? You use, okay, there they are, right? It walks you through all the steps for that exact problem if you get it wrong. So what I would recommend, like when you're at home and you're working on these, if you need a little refresher, I mean, you might even just, first time through, just put in a wrong answer and look at the solution and just see what, follow the solution and then remind yourself what's going on and then go do one correctly, okay? Sound good? Have at it.